grab a drink, and join the chat. Are you living your first-class life? Come chat with me.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another evening of First Class Life Chats with Lindsay Vertner, and I have another group of phenomenal guests. I am so excited to share them with you. I know that you are excited to hear from them and learn more about their stories. If you are new to me, my name is Lindsay Vertner. I'm an award-winning peak potential strategist and transformational speaker. I teach high-achieving females how to master their mindset and increase their clarity, confidence, connections, and cash flow, okay? So if you're struggling with perfectionism, overthinking, and doubt, or anything like that, I'm the coach for you. But this isn't about me tonight. This is about a phenomenal group of 35 co-authors that have been willing to be vulnerable and transparent with their own life experiences so that they can help you, okay? So I've got a little surprise that I want to share with everyone. Make sure you like, love, share this out. Engage with us in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from and all of those good things. Let the authors know that you are here, you are tuned in. And meanwhile, let me share with you a nice little surprise that is just going to get you in all of your feels. Okay, here we go. Listen, if you got all in your feels like I do every time I see that trailer, just wait until you get your hands on the book. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring to the stage the co-authors of First Class Life Devotional, 35 Testimonies of Phenomenal Faith Through Turbulent Times. Let me introduce them now. We have Miss Denise Garner and Miss Blessy Vergara. Hello, Miss Yonique Watkins, Miss Chanel Spencer, Miss Monica McGowan, Miss Renette Boyd, Miss Erica Norman, Miss Edith Richards, and we also have Keisha Fox with us well tonight, and she's having some tech difficulties, so hopefully she will be able to hop on momentarily. Meanwhile, take a look at these phenomenal ladies right here, another portion of the co-authors. Now, if you've been tuning in, we went live on Sunday and yesterday, and both of those nights were very, very powerful. You have the ability to watch those replays either on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, whatever is your platform of choice. And then tonight we are going to chit chat with these ones right here. Okay. They're going to share a little bit more about their stories and how you can display phenomenal faith in your life. So make sure that you are connected with your favorite co-author, because they're going to let you know how on this Thursday, June 10th, you can get a free digital preview of the book. But you got to be connected to one of these authors so that you can find out the information on that. And then afterwards, they will tell you how you can get your signed copy of this groundbreaking devotional that is literally going to change your life. So without further ado, allow me to let them introduce themselves and give you a taste of their stories. So first up, Miss Denise, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the readers what they can expect whenever they share your story.
Sorry about
There
that.
we go.
My name is Denise Garner, and my story is about how when you're looking when you're insecure about who you are, or how the master deceiver, this enemy can come in and deceive you, and you think you found what you've been looking for, and then you get trapped in that, and so how to come out of that.
Nice. Next up, we have Miss Blessy Vergara. Introduce yourself and what can the readers expect?
Aloha, everybody. My name is Blessy Vergara, and my book chapter is titled Anchor, where God really forced me to find an anchor through Him through a turbulent time in my life. And I'm going to go into more detail about that in a bit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have Miss Chanel. Go right ahead.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Chanel Spencer, and I'm coming in from the lovely city of New York. And I help women to brand and develop their business. And I'm a 14-time author, not including this amazing book. I'm super excited, Lindsay. I think you're amazing. But I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super honored to be a part of this book with all of these amazing individuals. My chapter is about the transformation of the mind. Your mind is the most powerful thing that you have, and sometimes you experience traumas and things that kind of shift how you think and how you feel about yourself. So in my chapter, I talk about the time that I attempted suicide and the steps that I needed to take to really go back and heal so that I could be the best version of myself.
Awesome. Next up, we have Miss Edith. Go right ahead. Looks like we have some tech issues. We will come back to her. Miss Erica in Mexico. Go right ahead.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? I am Erica Lawrence, the founder of Bodies in Motion Wellness, where I empower women to prioritize self-discovery, self-love, and self-care. And so, is that all? I'm sorry. Are we talking about our topic?
Yeah, share a summary of your chapter.
Yes. Okay. So thou shalt not have baby mama drama. I was a very young mom. At 21, I became pregnant with my daughter, and I just refused to fall into the pattern of parents fighting over their children. So fighting in the court system, using the children as a weapon. I just decided against it. Now, I almost fell victim to it. I did, act out a little bit at the beginning, but God condemned me and corrected me and said, no, you need to let me fight your battle. And so that's what I talk about in my chapter of the book.
Awesome. Up next, we have Miss Monica. Go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Monica McGowan, and my chapter is about how God provided for me after my mom abandoned me at a police station. It's intertwined with the power of prayer and also how words spoken over me affected my life.
Nice. Well, that part's not nice, but it's definitely going to help a lot of folks out there. Miss Renette, go right ahead.
Hey, hi. My name is Renette. I'm from Evansville, Indiana, and my chapter is about every word of God is flawless. And my chapter is about how something was said to me when I was small, and it affected my life all the way up until my adult life. So that's what mine's about.
Next up, we have Miss Yonique. Go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Unique Watkins, and my chapter is Discovering God's Grace is Sufficient. So regardless of what you have experienced and what you have done in your life, God, grace is sufficient to bring you through and for you to help to overcome.
Nice, nice, nice. And hopefully our other authors with the tech difficulties will be able to join us momentarily. We are going to jump right in and start with Miss Erica because as y'all can see, she is in the sunny Mexico on vacation. So she has some reservations. So we definitely want to make sure that we get to her. What can readers expect whenever they read your stories? What are the main takeaways that you want them to learn from your story?
Hey, Lindsay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Awesome. Thank you for allowing me to jump on while I'm on vacation. I'm excited to be a part of the project.
Yes, yes. Did you hear my question?
Oh, no, I didn't. I apologize.
No worries. I know. Listen, you're out in Mexico. The sun rays are getting to you. So share a little bit how your testimony demonstrates phenomenal faith.
Absolutely. So I was going against what everyone around me told me to do. Basically, everyone is like, you need to make him pay child support and you need to make him do this and you need to, fuss and cuss and do all of this to get his attention. But God was telling me otherwise. He told me that my daughter would always be taken care of regardless, no matter what the situation was, no matter whether her father, came around in the beginning or not. The Lord promised me that she will always be taken care of. He said I had to trust him. He said, trust me no matter what, and I promise you she will be taken care of. So it was hard to kind of go against the grain and go against, what everyone else told me that I should do. But I just stepped out on faith, believed God, I believed in his promise, and y'all failed me yet. My daughter has never wanted anything. And so I'm truly, truly thankful for this journey.
Yes, yes, yes. What advice would you give to the viewers and listeners that may be struggling in their own relationships with the parent of their children?
Pray first. Before you call them and curse them out, before you send them a late night text message, before you drive by and egg their car, pray first, because I guarantee God will tell you that's not a really good idea. So that would be my number one advice is to pray first. And then second, think about the long-term effects of what you do now. Think about the long-term effects that it'll have on your child. I am a product of parents who fought over me. Because they fought over me, I went to 3 different elementary schools. I went to 3 different middle schools. I went to 2 different high schools because I always moved back and forth between each parent. Now, although I'm thankful it's made me an extrovert today, there's a lot of emotional scars I had to heal from because my parents used to fight over me. So number 1, pray about every interaction you have with that co-parent. Number 2, think about the long-term effects that your decisions will have on your child.
Yes, yes, that is such good advice. I mean, listen, pray first for everything, okay? Especially when you are dealing with trying to co-parent and maybe the other parent is not the greatest, okay? So I know that your story is definitely going to help so many people out there. So thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing. What is the main lesson that you want everyone to learn from your testimony?
let God fight your battles. God can do more for you in an instant than you can do in a lifetime. I promise.
Ooh.
So let God fight your battles. Surrender it all. Surrender your emotions, surrender your need and desire to control everything, and let God fight your battles. Period. You don't have to do anything. You really don't. And that comes with a lot of peace. When you surrender and give it all to God, you are so peaceful, like on a beach in Mexico. Okay.
True life, true life. She is a living witness right there. You see her on the beach in Mexico with her big, beautiful smile, living her best life without baby daddy drama and baby mama drama. There you go.
Nope.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing. Listen, this writing process is not easy, okay? It can be very therapeutic. It can cause a lot of things to come up to the surface. And so I would like a few of our co-authors to just share if they had any fears or concern in being able to tell the story, because I want you to know, all of the listeners, all of the viewers, and the readers of this book, that your story is somebody else's breakthrough. So you have to be willing to show up and share it, whether you put it in a book, whether you speak it with your voice. You have to be willing to share your story. We all have a story. And what I love about this book is that there are so many stories from around the world, literally. There are multiple countries represented in this book. There are over half of the states represented in this book. All ages represented, multiple ethnicities, many backgrounds from all different places. So you will no doubt connect with at least one, if not many of the authors and their stories. But guess what? Even if you can't relate exactly to what they're going through, there is still a lesson to be learned. And that's why this book will be so impactful. So make sure that you connect with your favorite co-author so that you can find out how to get your digital preview this Thursday, June 10th. And you're going to hear me say that a lot because I want you to remember to mark your calendar and your alarm for Thursday, June 10th. Just a day or two away, okay? So let's see, Miss Renette, can you share what fears or concerns that you had in being able to share your story with the world?
Well, first of all, I had to come out of my comfort zone and share what was said to me when I was little and how it affected my life. And when I first started writing my first draft, Miss Lindsay told me that I had to say who. And I was like, oh my God. I was scared to even do that because it's like, then I thought I was going to be hurting someone's feelings. They were going to be mad at me, but I had to share because it helped me even during this journey writing. I realized that it had nothing to do with me at all. And it took me all this time to finally realize that what was said to me really wasn't meant for me. It was said out of anger. So I had to step out of my comfort zone and share that words can hurt people. So you need to choose your words kindly and make sure you say the right words to a person, because words can hurt a person. And once you say it, it's hard to take those words back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that the title of your chapter is Every Word of God is Flawless, because this is really going to be impactful for many people, because too often we are listening to the words of the people around us. And we're listening to the words in our own mind that aren't always the nicest, whenever the only word we need to be listening to is God's word and what God calls us to be and who God says that we are. So kudos to you for showing up and being willing to share your story. Listen, my co-authors know, I've said said it many times. Don't dance around the issue. If you're going to tell the story, tell it. Don't give us just a crumb of it. We want the whole piece of cake. So she showed up and she has done that. And thank you for sharing. And I would like for another co-author to share if they had any fears or concerns going into this writing process. Go right ahead, Blessy.
Oh my gosh, if I were to be honest, everything about this book writing process was a huge step of faith. Like, I would have never expected that this opportunity would come in a million years, but thanks to you, Lindsay, I was able to build up the courage to step outside of my comfort zone and join on as a co-author. And it is said that there are certain people that will only be attuned to your voice. So it's important to speak out your truth and the things that God has brought you through, because there's some people that will only listen to your voice. So it's important to put it out there. Yeah.
Absolutely. She is spot on, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have this like this person, or I don't have that like that person. But listen, every single person on this earth has a purpose, and we all have people that we are meant to serve. So there are people that are specifically tuned into your voice and your voice only. So if you don't show up and walk in your purpose and share your story, then they're going to continue to suffer. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the cause of anyone suffering. And Blessy definitely pours her heart out and shares her story. And I know that it is going to be impactful for many, many people. And you're going to hear me say that a lot as well, because it's true. Like, I have read all of these stories over and over again over the past 3 months. And every time I am moved. So I'm super excited for you, the viewers and listeners, to get it in your hands. So what do you have to do? Make sure that you are connected with a co-author of your choice so that they can give you the details on this Thursday, June 10th, on how you can get your free digital preview. And then after that, they'll be able to share with you the details on how you can get your autographed copy. Thank you for sharing. Now, Miss Chanel, please tell us how your story demonstrates phenomenal faith.
Hello again. So my story first, I feel like, we go through a lot of different life experiences. And if we don't have the faith within ourselves to understand that things can get better or to see the light at the end of the tunnel, then it's impossible for us to understand that we have hope and that we can get to the next stage of our lives, right? So in order for me to overcome the traumas that I experienced as a child and the traumas that I experienced from domestic violence and the attempted suicide that I talked about in the book, I had to have faith in my strength, and I had to have faith in my courage, and I had to have faith that I have all that I need instilled within myself to be the best version of myself. So it was very important for me to have faith in order to even get up and make the decision to show up for myself or anybody else, let alone.
Yes, showing up for yourself. Tell the viewers and listeners, what difference can that make when we decide to show up for ourselves?
Well, you listen. You're like the self-care first class life individual, so you already know. And from behind the scenes, too, like, it's very easy for us to make decision to not show up. It's very easy to be like, I'm just gonna lay in bed. I'm not gonna make that business post on Instagram. I'm not gonna go on that interview. I'm not gonna do those things that will help me to be the best version of myself. It's very easy to make that decision, to say, forget it, right? To live in the fear, right? But when you do decide to make the decision that I want to show up for myself, first of all, your body, the physical impact that it has on you in regards to the positive hormones that it releases, that's one, right? Two, the impact that you have on the individuals that are around you that you don't even know are watching you. Like, there's people that send me DMs, or like my sister or my family members that are like, oh, because you did that, I felt the courage within myself to know that I could do the same thing. So me showing up for myself is also showing up for others as well. But it's also allowing yourself to walk in your purpose and understand that you are here for a reason, And when you're walking in faith and when you're walking in your purpose, it literally just makes you feel like a level of freedom and peace. And I just want to be in the flow state for the rest of my life. So whatever I need to do to be there, that's what I'm gonna do. And if it's that showing up, then I'm gonna do that. But if I got to take time for self-care and take a break from my mental and emotional health, that's also showing up for yourself as well, because you're putting yourself first.
Yes, yes, yes. Y'all listen, self-care is not selfish, okay? You must prioritize self-care in your life. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with some other stuff that you don't want to deal with, okay? And so we have some of our other co-authors back. Miss Keisha, introduce yourself and give them a summary of your chapter. What can they expect? You're on mute.
Keisha Fox. Am I unmuted now, girl?
There we go. There we go.
Technology and I've been making friends today. So I'm Keisha Fox, and I am a mindset coach, and I am all about getting that mind together, because I feel like what happens out here in this place is a direct result of what's happening up here in this space. And so I love just talking to people about getting your mind wrapped around what it is that you want out of your life, and bridging the dream, the individual with the dream. And there's so much that can happen when we think positively about ourselves. So that's kind of my life's deal. That's why I exist, I believe. And as far as the chapter, so my chapter ended up being a heavy chapter. And I talk about grief. And I actually bring the readers into a couple of very intense moments of grief in my life. And I did that strategically, because I think all of us, if we live long enough, will experience grief, and you will be able to relate to that moment, or those moments that I share in that book, but not just to put it out there as, "Oh, I went through something," but to put it out there as, "Oh, I realized I didn't know how to handle grief. I was never taught how to handle grief. And there are so many people in the world, just based on those that I've encountered, who also struggle when dealing with grief. And grief can be anything. Grief can be loss of a job, loss of a loved one, loss of a pet. We all have experienced grief on some level, but how do we deal with life after it, right? And so being able to recover, and not just recover, but to rebound in a way that we can still be productive and don't have to adapt to these really bad behaviors and things that sometimes accompany grief. So I wrote the chapter about that, because we just need to have more conversations around that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have another one of our co-authors back. Miss Edith, are you there? Are you working?
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Go ahead, introduce yourself and give a summary of your chapter.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Edith Richards. I'm from the Boogie Down Bronx, and my chapter is on unwavering faith and faith in the unseen.
Nice, nice. While I have you here, and share with the viewers and listeners, how does your testimony demonstrate phenomenal faith?
Okay, so some may think that I'm crazy, because my phenomenal faith will intervene when there is a knife or there's 100 people trying to dump someone. I just believe that if I stand on the word of God, that He will guide me and protect me and change the situation around. I believe that.
Nice, nice. So I know that can be a very scary thing for a lot of people, but what gives you the courage to be able to intervene?
If you stand for me, I will stand for you. So since I was a child, I always believed in God's word, and He has showed up every time in my life.
Yes, yes, yes. Phenomenal faith at its finest right there, okay? So listen, if you are just tuning in, you are watching First Class Life Chats, and we are chatting with just some of the 35 authors in the phenomenal new book, First Class Life Devotional, 35 Testimonies of Phenomenal Faith Through Turbulent Times. Now, make sure that you are connected with one of these co-authors, if not many of them, so that you can get the details on how you can get your free digital preview this Thursday, June 10th. When? Thursday, June 10th. It's just a day or two away, so make sure you are connected. And then after that, after Thursday, the authors will be able to tell you how you can get your signed copy of the book. And it is definitely going to change your life. If you're a believer, you need this book. If you're not a believer, you still need this book because it is going to help you to overcome all the obstacles and struggles that you may or may not be going through right now. And listen, if you are like, life is good, I'm not having any issues at the moment, you still need this book because you may have an issue tomorrow. You might have had an issue last month. And guess what? That is still all the more reason that you should exhibit phenomenal faith because your faith is connected to somebody else's breakthrough. And so they need you to still be practicing and walking in your phenomenal faith. So with that said, let's take another look at this trailer just in case you missed it. And then we're going to get right back into some questions with more of the co-authors. Let's jump back into these questions. Miss Denise, come on up to the stage and share with the readers how you talk about deception and what does that look like whenever you were a slave to the master deceiver?
Well, deception is when you believe in somebody, you think something that you're looking for is a person comes into your life and you think it's exactly what you've been asking for. The enemy knows exactly what you're looking for, so he'll bring that into you. And when you get deceived, when you're not spending enough time with God, when you're not asking God, going to him first about the situation, and therefore and then when you're longing for something and the devil basically uses your weakness to deceive you because he'll twist things around on you and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is it. But really it's not. And then what you have to do is go to God and he will open your eyes.
Absolutely. Because the devil is very, very witty at twisting things around and things that we think that we want. He knows how to just manipulate it in just the right way so that you're serving him rather than serving God. So thank you so much for your testimony and for sharing that with the listeners, with the viewers, with the readers. Up next, Miss Monica, I know that you talk about in your chapter being abandoned by the one person that you would never think would abandon you. Tell the readers a little bit about that and how you had to overcome.
So when I was 17, my mom, she drove me to a police station and she told the person inside, I don't want her anymore. What can I do? And that officer told her, well, how old is she? And she said, she's 17. She goes, you can sign a piece of paper and she'll become an emancipated minor. So my mom, she took me outside. She took all my stuff out of the car. And she left me in the darkness and I didn't know what to do. But I was really connected with the church. In my youth group, I had friends. And so I called someone and, they came and picked me up. But that journey was really difficult. I mean, you figure the person that you're supposed to be able to depend on, they're not there for you. I only had one parent. So it was a struggle. It was a challenge. It was painful. But all I knew was God. That's all we did was go to church. You know, my mom had issues, but she loved God. And she took me to church. She made me read my Bible. She made me pray every day. She made me pay my tithe. So that's all I knew. And so although I was terrified because I didn't know what to expect, I only had one choice, and that was to trust God. And I don't even think I knew that I was trusting God. I think I had childlike faith, and He brought His phenomenal presence to that situation, and He rescued me, and He's been providing for me ever since.
Absolutely, absolutely. Trusting in God, even when you don't know that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You got to. That is a big theme, having that phenomenal faith. And speaking of abandonment, I know that Miss Unique, welcome back to the stage. You struggled with some abandonment, but in a different way because you felt that God had forsaken you. And so I definitely know that that is going to help a lot of readers because many people out there feel like, God, how could you put me in this situation? So share a little bit about that.
Yes. Hi, Lindsay. So my story is basically surrounding me growing up in a church and knowing right from wrong and everything, and had to make the big decision of whether, well, we found out that I was pregnant again and had to make the big decision whether or not we're going to keep the baby or pretty much, make some adjustments with our life. But my husband and I made the decision to go ahead and go ahead with the abortion. And I felt like God really abandoned me because He knew that was the one thing that I said I would never want to do in my life. And how could He allow this to happen? And I literally turned away from God and through in that moment. But while I turned away, God was chasing after me, and I had to find my way back. And with repentance and with God's grace, even though I felt like I had fallen from His grace during that moment, God said, no, my grace is sufficient. All you have to do is come back to me, open back up to me, be vulnerable back to me. And His arms was always open for me. So I went back to God, and here I am telling my story, hoping that somebody else, whatever they are going through, even if they felt like they have fallen, felt like they've been abandoned by God, no, God is always there and been there for us.
Yes, yes, yes. Listen, all you have to do is come back to me is what He is saying. I know that there are so many people out in the world that feel like God is not with them and they may be scared to go back because of the decisions that they have made. But you are a living testimony that all you have to do is go back. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Let's get all of our co-authors back on the stage here. And let's continue with some questions because listen, these stories are phenomenal. They are amazing. They are wonderful. They are moving. They are impactful. They are all of the things that you need in your life. As I mentioned earlier, you're not going to connect with just one. You're going to likely connect with many of the stories. And even the stories that you don't directly relate to, you are still going to be able to learn from those lessons. That's why our authors were willing to be vulnerable and share a piece of themselves with you so that they can make an impact. Because remember, your story is somebody else's breakthrough. And the longer that you hold your story back, hold your skills back, hold your talent, then someone is going to continue to suffer. So you must show up. Okay, you must show up in what God is calling you to do. And again, if you are a believer, you definitely need this book. If you are not a believer, you definitely need this book because it is going to help you have that phenomenal faith to push through and get over your obstacles, overcome that adversity and everything that you need to do in your life. This is going to help with your personal growth, with your spiritual growth, and all the things that you need to just grow and be a better person. So What do you need to do? Make sure you are connected with your favorite co-author so that you can find out the details on how you can get your free digital copy this Thursday, June 10th. You got it? Thursday, June 10th. Connect with your author and they will give you the details on getting your free digital preview. But it's only this Thursday, so don't come calling next week talking about, can I get my digital preview? No. Only on Thursday you get your free digital preview. And then after that, they will be able to share with you how you can get your signed copy directly from them. Okay. And you are definitely going to want it because each chapter also has time to reflect. Well, you'll be able to write in what your takeaways were and how you can apply their lesson to your life. So it is definitely going to help you. Let's hop back into these questions with these phenomenal ladies on the screen. Miss Blessy, share with us what are some main takeaways that you would like for the reader to get from your testimony?
Yeah, so some main takeaways that you can get from my story is that you need to be able to relinquish control and give it up to Christ. In my story, I talk about how I tried to get control over what was happening to my brother. He was going through a deep depression, and that was the first major thing that happened in my life that shook my world. This was in my sophomore year of high school. So yeah, it's definitely important to let God relinquish control because you really cannot do it on your own. And believe it or not, that's a sign of pride as well. Like if you're trying to take control of everything, then that's telling God like, no, I got this on my own. I can do it on my own strength, but you really cannot. It makes things so much harder for you. So it's so important for him to take control and for him to be your anchor.
Yes, I love that. Miss Edith, share with the readers what can they expect to take away from your chapter? You're on mute. Okay, we will come back to Edith. How about you, Monica? What are the main lessons that you want readers to take away from your chapter?
Sorry.
Okay.
In
So
my
the main
chapter,
takeaway-
you would be able to take away that the blood still works.
Go ahead.
Would you like me to continue?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. The internet. So the takeaway from my chapter would be that the blood still works. You call on a friend, a family member, or a colleague, you may not respond, here it will.
All right, we are still having some tech difficulties there. Miss Monica, go right ahead.
So the main takeaway from my chapter is that even when you feel that everyone's turned their back on you and no one is there for you, you may feel abandoned and you may be abandoned, but God will never leave you. He'll never forsake you. He will always provide for you. He will supply every need that you have. And so no matter what your circumstances look like, God is there with you and you can trust him and depend on him.
Yes. And Miss Keisha, how does your testimony demonstrate phenomenal faith?
So it took faith for me to deal with a certain moment, and I don't want to, give it away, but it took faith for me to really be able to move beyond this very intense moment of grief. And so my family is going to be reading some of this stuff for the very first time because everybody thinks that, I'm a strong person and we should be strong and we're this and we're that. Well, we have our struggles, especially when it comes to grief. So just knowing that it was my faith that pulled me out of that moment. And that's the message that I want other people to get. Like when all the rest of the foundation is shaky, that rock that God is, that you know him to be, you've got to stand on it. And that was what pulled me out of a very dark place and a very dark moment. And you'll read about that more in the chapter. So I don't want to give that away, but faith, it takes faith sometimes to move past those times when the enemy is trying to play the tricks. And that's what he does. He comes at us in our most vulnerable moments, but he's a two-trick pony. He comes at us like the same way all the time, just different people, different situations, different scenarios. And the more I talk to my sisters, the more I've been engaged in this devotional project, I learned he did the same thing to her and him and him. Okay, two-trick pony. But once we expose him for who he is, then we realize that he's a defeated foe, and that's why he comes at us so hard. But it's going to take our faith to get us through those moments. And we got to realize that it's just a test. It's just a test.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Miss Renette, share with us, what does the impact have whenever somebody is saying hurtful and negative and mean words to you? What impact does that have on your life? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Well, for me, it made me feel insecure. I didn't feel like I was worthy. It made me, I did things that I shouldn't have been doing. You know, how you get involved in relationships that didn't mean anything to you at all. You know, I didn't get nothing out of it. You know, they might have, but I didn't. But it just caused you frustration. You suffer your consequences. You know, things that you do. Words can really hurt a person. I was a child. I was little. I didn't understand. I didn't know what to do with those feelings. Didn't have nobody to share those feelings with. So it just put me on a path. And it took me when I first started going to church, and I still didn't realize I had these issues until I started getting into his word and learning about God and knowing that God is going to be with me regardless. He's always going to be there for you. I don't care what you're going through. He's there with you. So you got to depend on him, put your faith in him, take care of your words, and the words will, of course, take care of you. So.
Yes, the words will take care of you. Get in the word. And I think that's an important lesson for everyone to learn, because so often we don't realize that things from our childhood impacts us as adults. And then we continue to go in these cycles, whether in our relationships or with unfulfillment or, you know, with money, whatever it is for you, we continue to go in these cycles, not recognizing how the things that we've grown up with and the things from our childhood and adolescence are shaping our beliefs around the life that we're creating. And so it's definitely important that we begin to identify those past hurts, those past traumas, and then heal them. Sometimes we identify them, but we try to put them in a box. We need to heal them. And that's where phenomenal faith can come into play, because we have to allow God to come in and help heal our past traumas and negative experience so that we can grow and that we can improve and we can live our life to the fullest. And speaking of healing, what did that look like for you, Miss Watkins, whenever you were going through your time of trouble? How did you begin to start that healing process and really trust God again?
My healing process really started after when I realized that God was still calling after me. Even though, like I said, I was running away from him because I felt like, you know, sometimes the enemy or the devil make it seem like you did something so bad that God now frowns upon you. So I was ashamed. So I would take that and run, but God was still chasing me. And with every word that I would hear on a sermon or something like that, I realized God was calling me back. And I, you know, one day I went down back on my knees and opened up to God and be vulnerable. And ask God for forgiveness. And in that process, I had to realize I was dealing with a whole deeper trauma. I didn't grieve, and I needed to grieve. I, went through therapy to kind of heal from it. And it took me a year and a half later to realize I never grieved. And I had to go through that whole grieving process to know that I have, lost a child, or I did such a thing that I felt like I would never have done in my life. But God said He will still use my story for someone else. And I had to realize that what I went through wasn't for me. It is for someone else that would deal with a similar situation or deal with whatever circumstances. And I took that, and I used a lot of great disciples and people of the Bible as reference, because they all went through something and they overcame from it. And I took that and learned and tried to and pushed my way through.
Yes, another important lesson. As I mentioned earlier, so many times, we make those bad decisions or negative decisions or something that we're ashamed of or feeling guilty about, and we feel like we can't go back. But again, she is here sharing her testimony so that you can know that no matter what has occurred in your life, you can always go back to God, and He will be there with open arms. And Miss Chanel, please share with the viewers and the listeners what they can do to start to change their mind around whenever they are in that dark space. Because I know in your chapter, you talk about, overcoming those suicidal thoughts and attempts. And what did that look like for you?
Well, first of all, virtual hugs to all of you, because I'm behind the scenes like, girl, my good, like Monica, my heart. I was just like, I couldn't imagine being 17 and having that. Like, I just couldn't imagine. And just all of your testimonies and the fact that you had the courage to share your story and put yourself out there is like amazing. And shout out to Edith. I'm from the Bronx too. But anyway, I'm sorry. It's just my personality. I apologize. Anyway, Lindsay knows. So for me, I was actually 18 when I attempted suicide, and I was just tired. I dealt with sexual abuse for like 5 years as a child, and I was in a domestic violence relationship, and I was just fed up. I was tired of the thoughts that were spiraling in my mind, and I just wanted to be free of all the suffering that I was dealing with internally: depression, anger, shame, all of those negative emotions because of what I experienced as a child was just swirling in my mind, and then dealing with emotional, mental, and physical abuse. On top of that, I just snapped. And in that moment, I just wanted to be free from all of the suffering that I was dealing with internally. And, no one knew, because I was the honor roll student, I was the cheerleading captain, I was all of those things. So no one would ever even think twice that I was dealing with the things that I dealt with. But when, where I realized what the seriousness of what I did, was when I went to the ER room. When you go to the ER, it takes like 92 days for you to see somebody. They immediately saw me, and I was like, oh, hold on. I was like nervous for a second, but it also showed me the impact that I had on my family, and especially my mother and my father, and all the love that I'm surrounded by, and all the negative emotions that I told myself and that I was carrying was because I got stuck in it. So once I started going to therapy and doing all those things, it helped me to free myself from all of the things that I was holding within, and just unlock a level of freedom. And so now I'm very diligent on making sure that my mental and emotional health is always number one. I don't care what it is. I'm a business owner, I'm a mother, I'm all of those different titles, the author, the this, the that. I make sure that Chanel is good first. And as you always say, self-care is not selfish. And absolutely. Hopefully answer the question.
Yes, it did. And it's so crazy because you and Blessie's stories are so different yet so similar. So Blessie, I'm gonna kick it over to you, because you were all of those things, the honor roll student, all of the achievements, and it wasn't your suicide story, but there was still a moment of suicide that impacted you because you were dealing with your brother's attempted. So how did you take on the weight of that? And what would you what advice would you share with the viewers or listeners to not take on the weight of somebody else's burden?
Yeah, it was definitely a huge weight to carry just because he is my older brother. And especially in Filipino culture, you definitely look up to your older siblings and you respect them deeply. So it was hard to be on the other side of that. Just a little tangent. Yeah, I feel like the church still kind of thinks of suicidal attempts as like, oh, it's not, you didn't trust God enough, and that's why you're having like these kinds of thoughts. But that's really not true. Sometimes there are like hormonal changes that make these things happen. But to answer your question, I guess it's like, oh, sharing that your struggles with other people. You don't need to put on a facade that everything is okay because we're human. I mean, there are always things that somebody's always going through something, and it's not good to put on a facade. It's important to be able to open up to people and to share with people and to be transparent about what's going on. And for me, it was a really humbling moment that where I had to open up to some of my trusted adults and teachers and mentors and things like that. And where when I decided to open up, I was met with a lot of love and compassion. And that's an important thing to do, just to open up, to be receptive to what people have to say. And yeah, just knowing that God is in control and there's a huge community that's behind you.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, see, I said this earlier. I said, even if you don't directly relate to a story, there are still lessons to be learned from every story in this devotional book. So make sure that you connect with your favorite author so that you can find out how to get your free digital preview on when? Thursday, June 10th, coming up in just a day or two. Make sure you are connected so that you can get your free digital preview. Saying it again, on Thursday, June 10th. And again, all of these stories are so impactful. They are definitely going to move you. They are definitely going to cause a shift in your life, a shift for the better. That is, you are going to grow personally, professionally, spiritually, all the ways that you can grow. You are going to do that because this is going to help you in your walk, in your spiritual growth, in your spiritual development. You will be changed upon reading this book. So make sure on June 10th, this Thursday, you reach out to your author of choice so that you can get your free digital preview. And then afterwards, they will share with you the details on how you can get your signed copy. So make sure you are staying connected. And then, Miss Denise, as we wrap up, share with the viewers and listeners, if they're struggling with listening to the Master Deceiver, what advice would you give them?
I would advise them to go and, pray to God, get into the word, and then, share what's going on and talk it out. And basically, yeah, just stay in fellowship with God, because that's the only thing that's going to keep us from being deceived by the master deceiver. Having a relationship, because when you call on God, he will answer you. He always answers you.
Yes. And Monica, what advice would you give to the viewers and listeners that may be struggling with some abandonment issues of their own?
I think the most important thing that I can share is that you have to hide the word in your heart. That's the one thing that worked to my advantage. My mom, she forced me to read the Bible. She forced me to pray every day. She forced me to do that. But because of that, that word was in my heart. So even though she abandoned me at that police station, I had something to grasp upon. I was able to say, okay, God, what are we going to do? So it's really important that you hide the word in your heart, you meditate on it, you memorize it, and you live it. I mean, that's not always easy, but I would say that's the most important thing to do.
Absolutely. It's not always easy, but it's important to do. So listen, I know that this came up during the devotional that brought this whole book about, well, if I'm going to go through all these struggles as a believer, then I might as well do what I want. And here's the thing, whether you're a believer or not a believer, Everybody has struggles and obstacles and things that they go through. The only difference is that when you're a believer, you have God on your side and it becomes easier. Not easy, but easier than when you're not. So we must demonstrate that phenomenal faith and trust that he can deliver us from whatever it is that we're going through. But we have to trust in him, demonstrate that faith, and keep going with what he is calling us to do and allow him to heal us or move us past the obstacles that we are going through. Miss Keisha, share with the viewers and listeners a word of advice if they are struggling with grief or loss in their life.
Absolutely. The best thing that I can say is just accept the fact that it's very possible that you may not know how to grieve properly and effectively. There are, many people who suffer from what's considered to be complicated grief, and you could be going through that and you may not know that. But there is a process, just like people have, addictions to drugs and they need help. When you're grieving and you go deep and you go far into that grief period and it gets to the point to where it's complicated grief, just understand and be willing to be open to, seek outside counsel and seek different advice and on what you can do in order to be able to move past your grief so that you're not just putting a Band-Aid on it. And FYI, avoidance is not how you handle grief. And so that's one of the main things, because I think a lot of people, that's the go-to, that's the fallback. I'll just avoid how I'm feeling. And that's a Band-Aid. And it shows up in your life in many different ways and you don't even realize it. So let's go ahead and fully recover and effectively process the grief and then begin to move on. And it just helps with being able to let go and release.
Yes, 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 yes. Listen, if you want to hear more of their stories and how you can overcome in your life, then make sure that you are connected with one of these people that you see on your screen for the groundbreaking new book that releases this Thursday, First Class Life Devotional, 35 Testimonies of Phenomenal Faith Through Turbulent Times. It is going to impact your life in a positive way, and you likely will not be the same after reading this book. So make sure, what are you going to do? Once again, you connect with your favorite co-author so that you can find out how to get your free digital preview this Thursday, June 10th. And then after, they'll share with you the details on how you can get your signed copy. Miss Edith, are you there? Oh, okay. Well, she has an amazing story, and you can find
Yes,
out
I'm
all
here.
about it. Oh, we got her. We got her. Let's see. Share some final words of advice of how the readers and listeners and viewers can demonstrate phenomenal faith in their
Yes.
lives.
Well, my pastor, Frederick Crawford, he has 6 steps for commanding your. And so I do that every day. And so when you purchase the book, you will be able to read the 6 steps of commanding your morning and ensuring you have a phenomenal day.
Yes, and what a way to end it. With that, again, make sure that you are tuned into one of these authors so that you can get your free digital preview this Thursday, June 10th. And then afterwards, they will share how you can get your autographed copy. And as we close out the night, just remember, you gotta have faith. Okay, we need that to be our theme song. You gotta have faith. But to close us out, let's take a look at this phenomenal trailer one more time. And before I do that, let me show you the book because I'm not sure I did that this episode. Look at all of those beautiful faces right there. First Class Life Devotional, 35 Testimonies of Phenomenal Faith Through Turbulent Times. Again, make sure you're connected so that you can get your free digital preview this Thursday, June 10th. And as I mentioned, here is the trailer one more time.